Hey, what's going on? It's Jason Lucchese, and welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm so excited that you are here. I've got with me, as usual, here lately, we've been doing tag team on going over some great content with you and sharing tons of awesome stuff. Mr. Michael Bredhauer, how are you doing, bud?
Good. Thanks for having me on again, Jason. Yeah, it's always fun to do this stuff. So thank you.
Absolutely. This is good times. This is what we
Yeah.
envisioned that we would be doing as little kids.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think people realize, and I know we're going to get into some stuff here shortly, and definitely give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. But Jason, when we were growing up, uh, we kind of had talks about what we would do. Like, oh, we're gonna have this car, we're gonna be bodybuilders, and we're gonna have houses right next to each other. I mean, we really went into. I mean, obviously, some of those stuff were just kids' fantasies. But then there was an element where, because I've talked to a lot of people, I'm like, oh, you work with your best friend? That must be great. I'm like, yeah, actually, it's pretty cool. I've known him my whole life, been working with him my whole life. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Absolutely. It's been good. And before we dive into today's topic, to where we're going to be talking about wholesaling short sale properties, make sure that you drop a comment in. Let us know where you're from. We do that on these live streams. I love seeing where people are tuning into as our audience continues to grow. We like saying hi to our new folks and to our existing folks that come on and like gaining this information. So I know with the live stream, sometimes there's a delay, so I'm sure those will probably be popping in here any moment. But the main reason why we want to talk about how to wholesale short sale properties today is because, some of the things that I've gone over in previous videos is that 3.1 million homeowners were delinquent in their mortgage payments, and we've got 22 plus million people that have filed for unemployment. So it's only leading to things that a lot of folks are seeing, that this is going to potentially be a big problem, and it's going to be a lot different compared to 2008. We've talked about it quite a bit on other videos, so I don't want to go over it a whole bunch, but what we're seeing is in 2008, just to give a quick thing here, 2008, a lot of adjustable rate mortgages, subprime mortgages created that issue in the banking industry back in 2008. This is different. People are losing their jobs due to a pandemic that we've never seen before in U.S. history, on recorded history, and people are out of jobs. The stimulus money was stimulus money. In my opinion, it was a joke, and people aren't going to be able to afford paying their bills. So what are they going to choose to pay for? Food or their mortgage? Food or the mortgage? It's going to be food, because at the end of the day, who cares if you pay the mortgage if you can't even eat? What are you going to pay the mortgage and not eat for a month? That's not how it works. You'll unfortunately pass away from being malnourished, and it's just not going to be good. So that's why we wanted to talk about it today, because we see something happening here in the market that I talked about when this whole thing happened in mid-March, when we were had the stay-at-home order. So this is something that's really big.
Yeah.
Let's give some shout outs here really quick. Our good friend Fish. What's up, Fish?
Guardians of the Galaxy, man. I know you love Marvel.
Fish. We've got Stacy from Tampa, Florida. Welcome. Yo, it's Keith.
Hey, Keith, how's it going, man? Hopefully, you've been going back and forth.
Yeah, no, I hear you. We've got Daniel, and we've got Michael Bredhauer.
Oh, that guy. Watch out for that guy.
We've got Steven from California. Awesome. Here we go. Trey. Hey, it's Trey again.
Yeah, how you doing, Trey?
What's up, Trey? Welcome back, dude. So yeah, go ahead, say whatever you need to say. I had a text that just came in. Let me make sure that I am good.
Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about some. I was just basically going to comment. Yeah. I'm waiting on number 3. They're supposed to be releasing Adam Warlock in the next one, and I've got an old Adam Warlock number 1 in here that I'm going to get graded, but he's one of my favorite characters, so I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well, we got some good stuff to talk about today, because when I was kind of getting started back in 2008, Mike knows, I was trying to do so many different things, and one of the things was obviously wholesaling, but I needed to figure out how to do something that was going to bring in some funds. And we got Matt. He's looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy as well, part 3. So am I. But one of the big things is short sales, right? Really need to figure out like this whole short sales thing when I was first getting started, because not a lot of people were doing it. And, I was struggling at the time. I was on unemployment every single week. And I remember I asked Mike if I could borrow some money to get a training course from a good friend of mine that wasn't a good friend at the time, but now is a good friend. His name's Nathan Jurowitz, and the program was Short Sales Riches. So I borrowed the $400 from Mike, and next thing you know, started getting involved with short sales, and that became my bread and butter. And I just started doing short sales, left and right. So it was pretty popular from 2009 to 2012. And then that was like my primary focus. It's still like a secondary or maybe even a third that we do from a follow-up standpoint. It's not as prevalent as it was back then, but the thing that I wanted to talk about today and why we're talking about this is short sales. I believe it's going to be a really big thing from all of the stuff that we've been seeing. And, I would love to hear your feedback on it. Do you think it's going to also be like that as well? Do you see the trend in the marketplace? Do you see that homeowners are in a really tough spot right now, and they're going to probably have to relocate to where they could get a job because there's so many people that are unemployed right now? And most people can't, to live off of unemployment. So let's see here.
Hey, do we have time for a quick mini lesson there? Because you dropped a little bomb there, and I don't know if you brought that up. When Jason said, and he gives me credit for this thing every once in a while about him lending him the money for the short sales course, but I digress on this because I want to prove a point here. Jason, I grew up with him and I've seen him do things, and I'm like, he's always had his head on, and he's always, whatever he's done something, he's like go-getter. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of go-getters out there, but I'm trying to make a point here. For those of you who are out there, we all invest in our education. We're all looking for that next thing. And sometimes we cannot afford to do it ourselves. Like Jason, at that time in his life, he needed help. And he asked me, I mean, it was really not his second thought. I'm like, oh, it's Jason. I believe if he buys this course, he's going to do it. Like, I just believe that he'll do that. He'll take it and run with it. And he did. And the point is like we talk about this, Jason, all the time about toxic people in your life and bringing people that believe in you. I think we talked about this on the last episode. If you're in a position where you're like, man, there's this great thing that I'm about to do, or I could do, and I know I'd be good at it, finding somebody that can believe in you. Maybe you don't have the funds to do that, but they do, and they don't have the ability to do it, but you do. And taking a small leap of faith and talking to somebody and be like, hey, Mike, like Jason approached me. He just showed it to me. He's like, hey, I've got this buddy, or not a buddy, I forgot how you presented him, but there's this guy down in Florida. This is what he's doing. And then you told it to me, like, this is what I think I can do with it. And I was like, what do you think? Should we get it? And I was like, sure, that sounds good. And we bought it, I remember. And then I think I went back to California because I was still in the military. And then I got a call from Jason not too long ago. It's maybe a few weeks later. He's like, yeah, I went through all this stuff, man. And he starts talking to me about what we're going to do. He's like, I'm going to start getting mailers out, this, that, and the other. And then eventually he gave me all the materials. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I've read it all. I'm good. Why don't you go through it? So he could try and get me into it. But the point is, if you're not able to do it, don't be afraid to ask somebody and say, hey, there is an opportunity here. And if you don't believe in me, I'll find someone else that was. And maybe Jason brought me along because I'm his friend, but I like to think that if I wasn't his friend, he would bring me along because I was the guy who believed in him.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think it did have a big part to do that. We've known each other since 4th grade. So that obviously is going to play a pretty big role. And we've always been supportive with each other over the years. But, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is, where do you find these short sale leads? They're going to be at the county, the city clerk's office is where you could go and get them. And you could still get them to this day by going down there and getting them. There's special access terminals, computers that you could go to and get all of the notice of default or lis pendens leads. So there's no difference in notice of default and lis pendens. It just depends on the state that you're in. Both of them are going to be mortgage foreclosure judgments that are going to be showing up on there. So that's essentially what that means. But the best way to do it is go down there, get the leads. They're fresh. If you're on a shoestring budget like I was going down there. I was getting these leads for free. I was handwriting down all of them address by address and just getting all of those folks down. And I would go to a couple different counties, Marion County and Hamilton County. Those were the main counties here in central Indiana that I was going after. And lo and behold, when I was going in there one time to get data, I ran into an agent. She was with Keller Williams, and this was kind of a game changer for me at the time, because when I ran into her, I had about 6 short sales under contract, and I ran into her and she was telling me about some of the stuff that she was doing and that she was interested in this, but she didn't really want to have to wait and do all the negotiations. So she was like, hey, I've got another agent in my office. She's doing short sales, and she would be somebody that would love to talk to you. So she ended up setting an appointment with me and her. So the 3 of us all went to Houlihan's. And I remember, I was like, oh, shoot, I hope they don't have me pay for this whole thing, because I didn't really have a whole lot of money at the time. But, we had a great conversation. The agent that she brought with, she was already doing short sales. She had short sales that were listed. And at the time, the bank wasn't going to work with you, and they still don't, unless you have an offer. So now some banks, correct me on this, but some banks, they will work and do like a pre-approved short sale amount. That means it could also still be negotiated. So that's what I want to say. Some banks are doing that, but most banks will not proceed forward unless they have an offer on the property. So the individual agent that I'm talking about had these listings, and I was like, well, I'm ready. I can make offers on all of those. And she was like, okay, well, here's 3. Can you make offers on them? I looked at the numbers, made offers on the properties, and within a short period of time, we had somebody. And while this was all going on, because I had equitable interest in the property with my notice of option contract, which we've given away in previous videos, and today's video, once we're all done and we're wrapped up, I'll include the link that you guys can do for the JV agreement, because I promised you guys that in the last video. So you guys can get the notice of option contract that we use to get equitable interest in properties. And it's going to be a big deal, especially with everything that's going on now, if you want to do short sales. So definitely use that contract. Have it looked at by an attorney, but I would get the notice of option on there. It would be recorded, and that would give me the right to sell the property. So the whole time the property was being listed, and while we were doing the negotiations, what was happening is it was being negotiated with the bank. I was getting a buyer for the property. So one example is I was able to get a property negotiated at a significant price. I was able to sell a property for $210, and I had it negotiated with the bank at $160. And I was able to get a really great deal on that property. And the agent received 6% commission. And on the B2C side of this deal, and I'll explain what that is here in just a second, she received another 3%. So it's 9% in one day, because these deals would be done in one day. We would close with the bank at 9, and then we would do the next transaction at like 10 o'clock. And that's how we would do our deals. So what I would do on all of my deals, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later in this session, is I would do an A to B B2C transaction. For those of you that don't know what that means, it's if Mike is the bank, I would have the deal with Mike, and the bank, I'd be negotiating with Mike, because you're not really negotiating with the owner of record. They're in a difficult spot. So I'm negotiating with Mike. He's the bank. And then I've got Felix over here that wants to buy the property. So my first one with Mike is called an A to B, and Mike is the A, I'm the B. And then with Felix, I'm still the B, but he's the C. So I've got an A to B, B to C transaction that I do to where I actually take ownership in the property, even though it's for like 5 minutes or 50 minutes. It's just for a short period of time. So the main thing that I want to tell you is you can get your leads for free down at the city clerk's office. And that's something anybody can do. You could get them online too. Now, there are folks out there that claim that they can get these leads. There's softwares and all that type of stuff. I would just be a little leery on that because sometimes that data is very stale. You're always going to have a best bet of either you going down to the city clerk's office or somebody else going for you. Does anybody have any questions on that so far?
You got to think about these services that offer data, okay? Especially when it comes to things that come from public record, like we've talked about in the past, tax delinquency, or like what we're talking about now, notices, lis pendens, and whatnot. It's not like the counties and whatnot. They're not putting this information into a spreadsheet and then sending out to these companies and saying, hey, here's the list of properties that are about to get put on notice. Now, what happens is the county just puts them out there, and then somebody from these companies got to go and find a way to mine that data. And it's not like they can there's a big process. So Jason's saying when he means it's old, that means it's taken time for them to mine the data from the county, put it onto the platform, and then push it out to you. And by the time it's been pushed out to you, people are doing what we're talking about. They're just going straight to the county, getting it themselves, checking off the list, which is why sometimes when you buy these lists and you call them, they're either A, not interested, B, already talking to somebody, or C, the property sold because they skipped the middleman. Now, don't get me wrong. Like you do this in numbers, you pay for service, you're going to get a deal out of it. But we're talking about, like Jason said in the very beginning, especially on the shoestring budget, not paying for budget or not paying for all these tools and then going directly to the source. That's where you get those $50,000 spreads.
Yeah, no, that's true. And, some of the things you could do on top of that, once you get the leads, if you are strapped as well and you can't do like a direct mailer, best thing to do is like a door knock. Go and door knock. If you're afraid to do the door knock, that's fine. You don't have to do it. You could go and do, I've got it right here. You could take a little Post-it note and go and put a note here. Mike, why don't you talk real quick? I'll write down exactly what we do.
If you're not okay, well, he's doing the Post-it note. That's definitely a good thing. And if you haven't done the door knock, you should do both. You should do the Post-it note and the door knock. Even if you're just doing the door knock as an exercise and your whole point is just to leave the Post-it note, because the Post-it note is very effective. Get yourself in the position of just talking to anybody about anything, knocking on the door, because they're going to come at you with lots of different stuff, and it's not going to be what you expect.
Right. That's all I put on there. Call me. My phone number. Thanks, Jason. Now, you can actually go and get this made up at Staples or Office Max. So you could have a whole entire pad already made so you don't have to whip this out and print it every time. Mike, would you call this if somebody put this on your door?
I know I would, because Jason, you and I had done. Remember when I just started getting out, and you had already done that. You're like, here, take this and write it down. And I would go around. I had a little white Hyundai at the time. I would remember that car. I was like, all right, I'd have 35 addresses, and Jason was like, don't even knock, just put it on the door and leave. And lo and behold, the phone would ring.
Great question from Fish. He's actually got a couple good ones. So average short sale, it varies. The smaller banks that aren't like in that top 5, top 10 are going to probably be like 2 to 4 months. The bigger banks could take longer, 3-6 months. They could take. Now, if you and your agents are working really close together and you're pushing these to get done faster, it could be much sooner than that. I think the fastest one I had, Fish, was probably less than 30 days, but that was like an anomaly. I never had anything close to that before. I think my average was around like 90 days or so. And then other good question here from Fish, just stick with smaller banks at credit unions or everyone across the board. I would tend to say everyone across the board. Now, you are going to have some potential roadblocks, and I hate saying roadblocks, but Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, some of these bigger banks, they have like an online platform that you have to use. I think they all use it now. And sometimes that could be a little redundant, but we're going to talk about some solutions here that I would encourage everyone to use if you are not a licensed real estate agent. So I would go across the board on that and not just limit it to the smaller folks. So great question. What main points convince a seller to do a short sale? All right, well, that's a great question, Paul. So most of the time when we are doing the door knocking, most of these folks are still in a position to where they have no idea what to do. And most of these folks are in a position to where they want to sell. They want to sell, and they can't because they're over leveraged. That's typically the case. Is they're over leveraged, or they might be at a point where they've got a small amount of equity, but if they sell, they can't pay the 5 to 7% real estate commissions. So in this particular case, we're not trying to convince them. By the way, if they don't want to sell, okay, we're going to give them their options. We're going to give them their options of what's going to happen. So I guess a little bit in there, Paul, is a little bit of convincing, but we're talking to them and just letting them know that, hey, this is what we're going to try and do with your bank, and we're going to try and negotiate how much you owe for an amount that's less than that, and it's going to be reflected that on your credit. And we walk them through everything on what's going to happen with their credit if it goes to a foreclosure versus a short sale.
Not just that too. Not just that, Jason. When we're talking to them about the short sale, we give them, and we've talked about this with our tax delinquency strategy. We give them all the options. We're like, say, hey, okay, you want to avoid the foreclosure? Here's what you can do. Like, you can go to foreclosure, or you can pay off the loan balance, or you can do like I'm having a brain fart for the word now. Cash for keys, basically, to the bank.
Oh, deed in lieu.
Deed in lieu. I'm sorry. You can do deed in lieu, but then we explain to them each single time, well, if you do a deed in lieu, here's the impact it's going to have to your credit. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the impact you're going to have with the foreclosure. Here's the impact you're going to have with the short sale. What, how would you like to proceed forward? What do you think would be the best path for you? Or, now knowing that, what do you think? Or, how could I help you? Or this is what we could do to help you. Well, the short sale, if you wanted to go the short sale route, what we could do and then go into is like, we can go ahead and potentially get this paid off, work with the bank so they're not going to come after you for a deficiency balance, and then explain to them how we're going to go ahead and get that deficiency balance waived.
Yeah. And most of the time, what we always try and do is have in the approval letter from the bank that the bank's not going to come back with a deficiency judgment, that they're not going to come back for a deficiency judgment, which is going to be reflected on their taxes, that they're going to have to pay a certain portion from the difference that was not collected from the mortgage. So if they owe 190 and we settle for 130, there's going to be that $60,000 balance. So you can negotiate that in your approval letters that they're not going to go after the owner of record for the deficiency judgment. And I know there are some things that are going to be coming out from the IRS that are going to be released for mortgage relief so that they can actually just wipe that all off and write it off completely without having to have any issues. Judy's asking, question. Are there restrictions about giving advice or direction to a seller? This is great. This goes into some of the things that I was going to cover with you guys, and I'm glad you asked this already, Judy. Is I would make sure that you don't really have a lot of communication with the seller yourself unless you're a licensed real estate agent. So one of the things that I was going to talk about here in just a little bit, but I'll talk about it now, is have a real estate agent that you're working with hand in hand on this deal, because they're a licensed real estate individual. They're insured and they've got everything according to the state. The last thing you'd want is to be claimed as an individual that was a mortgage foreclosure consultant. That's the last thing that you would want to be labeled as if you were to ever potentially get in trouble by your state, like an attorney general. So that's the thing that I would recommend on there is making sure that you just have the agent mainly do the talking. If you end up talking to the homeowner and just say, hey, I'm interested in potentially buying your property, That's probably the extent of it that I would have from that standpoint. Have your agent talk to them, and then it just kind of makes things very black and white at that point, because a lot of people got in trouble, and they were doing things wrong. We were always doing things 100% legal. But the people that were doing things in a very foolish manner and they were greedy, was they would always say that they would help homeowners avoid foreclosure. They could get the date pushed out. Just like stupid things that they would say.
I think they say things like, we can stop the foreclosure.
Yeah, they would say stop foreclosure. So yeah, that's one of the things that would happen, unfortunately. And so I would have the agent do it, because you don't want it to be black, white, and gray. The gray part is you getting involved in saying too much. If you do want to become a mortgage foreclosure consultant, I would check with your state, your county, and you can get that. It's probably between $900 to $1,200 a year to have what's called a surety bond, in order to do things as a mortgage foreclosure consultant. So that's what I would recommend.
Once it gets to that point, to the sellers, like they're leaning towards like, yeah, I think a short sale sounds good. I think I could do that. We then, all right, well, we have an agent, and we have the agent. We send a message to them. We say, hey, I got somebody. They're thinking about a short sale, and then they start the contact. And the only time I talk to the seller really is, yeah, I need to get some pictures, or I need to bring somebody in like to look at the property. But once the agent has gotten to the point where they're working out the short sale details, I'm no longer, we're never advising them. We're just, hey, well, this is what a short sale does. If you wanted to do a short sale, this is what can happen. This is what we could do if you do that. And then if they say, well, I'd like to do that. Okay, well, we have an agent that we work closely with. His name is Mike. We're going to have him give you a call on this number, and he'll go ahead and explain exactly what the process looks like.
Yeah. And Judy, does that help with your question? That's actually a really great question.
Edwin,
what?
I was going to say, Edwin, I see you getting a little excited with your posts, man. We'll get to your questions here. I see.
I'm not sure what happened there. It got entered like 10 times each.
Yeah.
Edwin, we just answered the question for fish just a little bit ago. It could take anywhere on the low side 2 to 4 months, and on the high side, especially with everything from a technology standpoint, it could take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. But it also depends on the bank. Judy, yes. Okay, good.
Perfect.
Let's see here. What is the hierarchy of deals you guys would look at? Yeah, definitely. Tax delinquent ones would be first. Terms deals, yeah, that's completely up to you. We have probate in there instead of terms. Next would be either it would be short sale for us, and then we do like to work out terms deals as a fourth option. Really liking the probate stuff. So yeah, great question, Fish. Edwin asked this question, I think 20 times. I would not mention anything that you're doing as a wholesale. That's why we recommend doing A to B, B to C transactions. So I would not say you're a wholesaler. Don't say that at all. Door knock with masks and gloves. I don't wear a mask. I think it's kind of goofy. I don't wear gloves. I think it's kind of goofy, but that's just me. You could do whatever you want to feel safe. Some folks feel like breathing in your own carbon monoxide is fine. I don't really want to breathe that in. So I
wear glasses, and it steams up my glasses too, so it's hard to wear a mask.
Yeah. No, banks don't own the short sale. I don't remember saying that they do. If Mike is the owner of the property, he's still the owner of record. John is also stating 4 to 12 months, and yeah, I was saying that, John. I'm not sure if we're trying to be like Mr. Correction on everything, but I'm not. The owner of record is in this case, let's just say Mike owns the house. He's the owner of record. The bank will negotiate the short sale, not Mike. Mike won't do that. So hopefully
I'm just waiting for, if I'm the homeowner, I'm just hoping that the bank and the agent are going to be able to get my short sale approved so Jason can buy my house and I can move on without having to go through a foreclosure?
Edwin, do banks work with investors? Yes, they absolutely do. Bernadette, hey, welcome, Bernadette.
Hey,
Nice seeing
Bernadette.
you. How likely is it? I would say probably 9.5 out of every 10 that you do will do the waiving of the deficiency judgment. Great question. Richard, does the A to B B2C transaction trigger an additional IRS obligation if B takes title even briefly? No, it's not. It's not like a normal transaction to where you're going to get a 1099 from the title company.
That's another good question.
Judy, how do I find a great realtor that will negotiate the short sale? Do they not charge any more than getting the commission? No. So Judy, this is a great question. So here's the deal. They're not going to they're not charging you anything unless they're an attorney. An attorney is probably going to want something, but not a real estate agent, because if you're bringing a deal to the real estate agent, what they're going to be getting is that short sale commission. So if the deal goes through with you, it's going to be a 6% commission. And then if you do things the right way, they're also going to get that commission on the B2C transaction. So it could be anywhere 3 to 6% commission. So that could be anywhere between 6 to 12% commission that they're going to get. Best way to find a real estate agent, find one that's investor friendly and understand things from an investor standpoint. That would be the best thing. Let's see here. We've got a great question from Edwin. When is the last time you've done a short sale? Or are you just another guru? We've done lots of short sales. So you could take a look at them. I'm not trying to sell you anything. So if you don't like what we're sharing on today's session, you don't have to be here, Edwin. That's completely up to you. We're just giving you information that's helpful with things that are going to be more than likely coming. But that's up to you. John, I did my first short sale in 1994. Yeah, I don't even think they were called short sales at the time, John, right? They were, I think they were called something else. They were calling something else. Jason, you are very reasonable, not yelling. You can change your life or showing us your hot car. Yeah, I'm not yelling that. I'm not trying to show you guys any cars or anything like that. Mike and I are in our office doing these and just trying to help folks. So let's see here. Tamara, my agents and I can help in Arizona. We are very seasoned default specialists. Awesome. I'll leave this up here for a second then, Tamara.
Awesome, Tamara.
For anybody that would be interested in Arizona stuff, if you need somebody, Tamara can help you guys out here. And Tamara, the great thing about what we're doing is this thing is being recorded, so folks can reach out to you that way, because we will probably get a few hundred views on this, by tomorrow or so, depending on how YouTube picks it up. Let's see here. You can't flip short sales anymore. Banks put anti-flipping clauses in their approval letters. Yes, we know about the deed restrictions, John, and there are ways that you can move around the deed restrictions, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So flipping short sales, yes, you can still do it. The anti-flipping things is what's called a deed restriction. I'm not sure if you're listening or not, Edwin, but yes, I have said to put a real estate agent on your team. We just had that question asked. Fish, do you need a coach to coach an agent through a short sale? I assume the first one or two, especially if they haven't done them before, Fish, I would highly recommend that you help them out for sure. We got Powell. How does a short sale affect someone's credit versus a foreclosure deed and lose? So short sale is going to affect it 50 to 100 points right off the bat, but they can get their credit back on track within 6 to 12 months. Foreclosure is going to be anywhere from 200 to 300 points off of the credit immediately from doing a foreclosure deed in lieu. And it's gonna be a stain on the credit for about 7 years. So that's the main difference. Also, too, if somebody has some sort of a position with government and it requires clearances, that could cause a problem too. If you have a foreclosure versus a short sale, that could cause problems. Also, too, getting like any type of a job, that could cause problems as well with having a foreclosure on your credit. I know employers take a look at the credit, and if they see things on there that they don't like, that could be a problem. Most investors are way too lazy to go through that. Most people aren't going to do short sales.
I think that's what he was going for, the whole process, because it's a lengthy process. And I think a lot of people, they want to get in real estate and they're like, man, I want to get a deal quick. Well, I mean, yeah, there's some strategies where you can get a deal quick, but I think what you got to understand is you got to implement that strategy. And then you also got to implement something like this. So you can have a deal closed this month, and then you can have 2 deals closed next month. And then 6 months down the road, you're still having deals closed. So you can be like, hey, this isn't a job. This isn't a hobby. This is what I do for a living.
Right. So one of the things is the documents that are going to be needed. I'm going to show you guys here my screen so you guys can see some of the stuff that this was the stuff that would be needed. So Mike, can you guys see all this?
Excellent. Yep.
Okay. So short sale items needed from owner of record. These are the things as of right now that we're seeing that are needed. So letter of explanation. This is going to be them explaining, what caused them to have a hardship. A lot of people right now, there's 22 plus million folks that have, no job. That's a hardship. Death in the family, some sort of a disaster happened. There's lots of things that could constitute as a financial hardship. Purchase and sales agreement, retirement account. So if essentially what the bank is looking for, do you have any money that we can get from you in order to go towards us approving a short sale? Any government income, so like Social Security, any type of government assistance that you would get, Medicare, Medicaid, 2 years tax returns, all pages. So sometimes you're going to need not sometimes, you need all pages. If the person is a W-2 employee, you're going to need to do W-2. If the person's been on unemployment, which a lot of people are now, that's going to be a big thing. If somebody is working, or if they're not working, they're going to need to see 30 days worth of paycheck stubs or unemployment coupons. 2 months of bank statements. Now, again, I'm saying all pages because the banks will look at the numbers. If it says page 1 out of 4 and you send the first 3 pages, even though the 4th page was a blank copy, you're going to need to send that blank copy because it says page 1 of 4 on there. They get really weird about it. Borrower's authorization. Sometimes there are second liens, and second liens are going to be negotiated down for pennies on the dollar. I had one not too long ago for the second was $155,000 and they agreed to $3,500. Why would they do that? Because they know that if it goes to foreclosure, they're going to get zero. They're not going to get anything. But you do need a borrower's authorization so that you can speak with the bank. This is going to be either with you or your agent. Financial history. So a lot of banks have their own form that you can use. There are some forms that you can go out there that are on Google and you could find that form 710 that you can get. That's a document out there. What I would recommend that you do up front too is get a BPO. Have not the listing agent. So this is important, not the listing agent. Have another agent from a different brokerage, from a different, like if it's Keller Williams, get another one from like another, like Remax. Get somebody from Remax to do it. They cost like $50, $75. Get a broker price opinion, stick it in there because that does help with being able to give evaluations. Now, these are things right here. This is going to be huge. You need to have a listing agreement. Without the listing agreement, you are not going to be able to proceed forward with it. So typically what happens is you need to have the listing agreement first. So like if we list the house on May 13th, Mike, I cannot put a purchase agreement in. I cannot put in a purchase agreement until, let's just say, tomorrow. So the 14th. That's the way that we do it. And if there was any changes at all, you need to show the MLS history. This is called a 4506T. This is something that you could get off the internet. This is just giving the loss mitigator at the bank information to take a look at the tax returns that are needed. They just want to make sure if you owe anything that it's been paid. And they're also verifying that the tax returns that you sent in match up to the tax returns that they have on record. Proof of funds letter. This is something that we'll show you here in just a little bit, but that's something that you can get very easily, and we'll show you exactly how to get a proof of funds letter. But Mike, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, it's just like we have it right here. I mean, Jason, I think you have this one saved on your computer, but creating a document like a checklist helps in the very beginning. I mean, so this is a lot of stuff that you need to get. And if you don't get it right away, you're just extending like that last bank statement, the last blank page of the bank statement you didn't send because you didn't think it was necessary might delay the process 2 or 3 weeks because the bank's going to take forever to say, oh yeah, we need this. You're missing page number 4. And you're just delaying the inevitable on this property.
Yeah. This question came in from Judy. Did you say 50 to 100 points credit for short sale? So great question. Thanks for asking, Judy. Judy, short sale is going to be 50 to 100 points. The deed in lieu and, so a deed in lieu is going to be separate than a foreclosure. So you've got deed in lieu. If they sign that deed in lieu, it's going to be 200 to 300 points roughly. The main reason why I say that is it depends on how many other payments that they've missed. So deed in lieu and a foreclosure are going to be the same as far as 200 to 300 point hit on the record, on their credit. So hopefully that helps. Judy, does that help answer that question for you? The short sale, you could get back on track within, like I was saying, 6 to 12 months, you could get back on track with your credit. Let's see here.
Somebody asked that question earlier about selling points. And again, we're not trying to sell them. It's the rules that convince them they should do the short sale. Hey, do I want a little 50, 60, 70 point hit, or do I want to take 300 points and have this thing follow me around for almost a decade?
Perfect. Judy responded. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Edwin, do you use a land trust by getting around deed restrictions? Nope. We are not doing the land trust thing. There's a big problem with doing that. It's basically deception with the bank. So I would not do that. You could get in very big trouble. That's not something that I would recommend that you do. John, yeah, we could, if everybody would like a copy of this, the items that are needed from the owner of record, just let us know in the chat box if you would like a copy of it, and we can make it available for those of you that would like it. So just go ahead and do that. Great question, John. We could definitely make that available. Deborah, are lease options purchased and taking over loan payments in certain states potentially a good investment strategies in today soon to be bubble market? Yeah, we were going to talk about lease options today. We're going to probably talk about it next Wednesday. Our partner Jason got a little sick, so we weren't able to share it today. So that's why we're talking about the short sales. But yeah, lease options are definitely a great spot. The thing with lease options today is I would not get on board with a lease option unless you plan on getting the loan back into current status. If somebody has a loan out there and you're going to do a lease option and they're in default, I wouldn't do it unless you're planning to get them caught back up and in current status with the bank. The last thing you'd want to do is start having somebody move into the house and you're receiving these payments and it doesn't, they end up going into foreclosure. That's just not good. You would not be in a good position from a legal standpoint at that time. So I would do that. There's things to protect yourself with that. So what is the average profit you would net back in the day on a short sale? So right now with short sales, it's going to be in the low 20s to the low 40s. It just depends on the area, really. And it also depends on the bank on the discounts that are needed, but that's where it's going to be. And again, you are waiting a long period of time. So some people might be like, wow, that's a big amount of money. It is, but there's also a lot of time being involved. And handing that off to your real estate agent is the best way to go, unless you're licensed yourself. That would be it. Rob, in the old days, people used to offer an option to buy. For example, here's 200. Here's 200 that entitles me to purchase your house. Yeah, so we use the option contract to buy the house. That gives us the equitable interest in the property, and we do put consideration in that contract. We normally only put $10 in there. That's what we've always put in there. So hopefully that helps. And we put that down, since some of these short sales could take a long time. We put that option good for a year.
Yeah, I was about to say more than 3 days.
Yeah. Is there a place for this approach? Is there any advantage in this approach?
The entire United States.
I'm not sure exactly what he's asking.
Oh, I think what you're saying is, like, are you asking, like, is there a good market for this, or is there obviously anywhere that there's mortgages, and then obviously in the current crisis where people are going into forbearance, and here shortly when everything's opening back up, everything's already getting alluded to that. You're going to find, I mean, just look at markets like, yes, places like California are going to get hit harder than places like Indiana. Not for anything other than that we don't have the ups and downs that they do. And right now, I think like states like Florida, I was talking to a buddy down in Florida, restaurants have already opened back up. I was talking to another buddy out in California. He said stores have been opening back up. He actually said the prices of a lot of goods and services have gone up because people have money, as he says. He's like, yeah, people got money now. They don't, but they think they got money. So all this money they got from the stimulus check, they're blowing on nonsense. So forbearances, short sales, that money obviously
it's put inflation. It's inflation.
Yeah.
Because we've got to be able to make the economy, the government's got to make back that money that they just made out of thin air.
Well, they're going to take it back from us eventually. So it's like false inflation. It's the money got inflated and they're going to deflate it, but they're going to leave it inflated basically.
Yeah. So one thing that I just want to bring up here, why I don't do the land trust is this, from a legality standpoint, and also potentially doing a defraud to the bank. What I would do is if you're in a position to where you're gonna like maybe sell the property to an end investor that wants to purchase that property, maybe do a rehab to it, then what you could do is, if there is a deed restriction on it, simple thing that you can do is you could add individuals to your LLC and then sell your position out of the LLC, so that there isn't an issue with the deed instruction or the deed restriction at that standpoint. I hope that makes sense, because say, for instance, I have an LLC and I'm just operating as a sole individual on that LLC. But what I can do with that LLC is I could add people to it. So if I wanted to add other people to my LLC, I could do that. And then if they wanted to pay me off, I could get paid off. So I could set up some sort of a operating agreement that they would pay me. So hopefully that makes sense. Tico, how do you find short sale properties? No problem. We did cover it. It was actually a long period that we covered it. So what I would recommend is watching more like of the beginning of it. But we did cover it already. So if people want us to cover it again, we can. But we covered it pretty extensively. But hey, thanks for joining. I'd rather have you here rather late than not being here at all. So thanks for being here, Tico. All right, cool. So one of the things we talked about team, you pretty much just all you need right now is just a real estate agent, or if you want to do this yourself, you just need to be a licensed agent yourself. There is going to become an extra layer of disclosure, and you're going to need to let folks know that you're a licensed real estate professional. So that is going to be needed. The other thing too is you're not going to be the one that's listing the property. You've got to have somebody else on your team that lists it for you, because you don't want any conflicts of interest at all. Just avoid them and just stay 1,000 million gazillion % legal. You don't want to have any issues.
Right. The advice on that would be if you already have your license, then you have an avenue to go ahead and take that approach. If you don't have your license, it would be simpler to find an agent that does and do your first deal or do your first short sale through them, get your hands on it and touch it, feel it, smell it, and then have the time and resources to get your own license and then proceed forward that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. We already covered documents. So deed restriction, you could have this removed. I know I touched on it here a little bit, but essentially what that's doing is you only have certain percentages that you can move on. So let's say the first 30 days, the bank's going to say that you can only sell it for more than, I believe it does vary, but it's going to be 20 to 25% from your purchase price. So if you bought it for $100,000, I believe you're not going to be able to sell it. So if I do 25% here, you're not going to be able to sell it for more than $125,000. And you can do that within the first 30 days. But the thing that you have to put into perspective, unless you have a cash buyer that's buying it from you, it's going to be extremely difficult to have a retail buyer from that standpoint, because you're going to have to pay realtor commissions. So I would encourage you, if you are going to sell it within that first 30 days, so that you don't have to worry about like deed restrictions. There is going to be a deed restriction on there, but you can't sell it for more than a certain percentage. And that certain percentage is going to be either 20 or 25%, depending on the big bank or small bank that you're going to be working with. So that's the thing that you have to put in there. And then you can't sell it for more than that dollar amount until the 61st day, when that deed restriction pops off. Now, some banks out there have deed restrictions that do last a little bit longer. Some go up to 90 days. So it's either going to be the 61st day or the 91st day that you can properly resell it for any dollar amount that you want. So you can potentially get a deed restriction removed if you ask for it. Now, deed restrictions do go away if you plan on rehabbing the property. So if you're buying this and you say, for instance, you put in an extensive amount of work, let's just say $50,000 in work, and you want to sell it in 6 weeks from when you do all that work, well, the deed restriction will fall off as long as you could show receipts and scope of work that you've done. That could be submitted to the bank. You could get approved, and that's not a problem. We've done that in the past, so that's something that can be done. Can I wholesale short sale properties? This is one that I wanted to cover. You can. You could still do A to B, B to C transactions. There are deed restrictions with the bigger banks. Now, some of the smaller banks don't have the deed restriction policies in there. So if you just want to target, like Fish was talking about earlier, should I just focus on the smaller banks and credit unions? You absolutely can. But with the bigger banks, you're going to have those deed restrictions. So you're not going to be able to do same day closings. You're going to have to figure out some sort of a creative solution, which in some cases you might have to sell off equity in an LLC that you built specifically for this property, which in some states, setting up an LLC is very inexpensive. And if you want to also hold the property for a certain period of time so that you can sell it for whatever dollar amount you want, you're going to either have to wait 61 days from date of when you buy it or 91 days. So it could vary tremendously. And we'll show you an individual here where to get funds. But let's see. I think we have some questions coming in. What?
Let's bring Matt
Big,
talking.
big bank take little bank. Okay. Interesting. Couldn't you create another LLC then sell? Yes, you can. So yeah, that's what we were just talking about. You could essentially, what I think is a much cleaner thing, and we could have our attorney come back on here. We just had him not too long ago. But what you could essentially do is, you know, you have your LLC, and say, for instance, you want somebody else, like another person that's going to be the buyer, come on the LLC, and you sell off your equity in that LLC for whatever dollar amount that you were going to end up making. No, it doesn't. The deed restriction is if I put it in my own name, the deed restriction is still going to be there. It's not if it's just an LLC. If I put just my name on there, they're still going to give me an approval letter, and they're still going to say a deed restriction. That just happens. We just had one the other day that had that. One of my agents that we're working with, there was a property that I was looking at, and the approval letter came in there. It didn't matter. It was a property that I was looking at for my folks that I was going to buy, and the deed restriction was in there. So for Edwin, who is wondering when the last one that like we've been looking at, it was just yesterday. So hopefully that makes sense for Edwin. Let's see here. Deborah, assuming a loan on a home, preferably not behind in payments, how is this different than an option to buy in the clause that you mentioned when discussing short sale? What strategy is better? I'm not sure I understand.
We use that option with the short sale.
Yeah, we use the option. So we're not using a lease option. We're using a notice of option to purchase. So totally different option agreement compared to the lease option. Completely different.
That's what it was.
Document. So sorry for the confusion on there. We're not doing lease options on the short sales. We're doing notice of option to purchase. So yeah, there's several different types of option strategies that you can use out there. So hopefully that makes sense. Sorry for any type of confusion.
We'll definitely have to bring Matt back on here because honestly, the difference in these things is really, it's all in the contracts and how you set up your business. And Matt does a good job of explaining, like, hey, if you're going to buy a property and you're going to sell it this way, and this is what you should set it up as.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt's going to be really good with that. He's already told us that he would like to come back on. Deborah, okay, thanks. Yeah, no problem at all. One of the things that I wanted to do as well, I wanted to share who we use for transactional funding, and they're very, very inexpensive. So here is Dwayne over at besttransactionfunding.com. They'll do your short sale, they'll do your REO. So right here is where my mouse is. Right here, everybody could see the screen. Mike, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And they're at 1.75% for their transactional fund, plus I believe a $4.95 processing fee. So here's what I wanted to show you guys. You can get your proof of funds letter over here, and we've never had an issue doing HUD foreclosures, REOs, short sales. No issues at all with using this this letter. It's very simple to put together. So if you want a proof of funds letter, they're absolutely free to use. They will be generated in about 20 seconds. They'll go to your email and you'll be good to go. So you go on here, you just fill out your information, and you're 1000% good to go. So hopefully that makes sense. You could just come over here to besttransactionfunding.com and you will be able to use their funds.
It actually, and Dwayne's pretty cool about it. Your first transaction, about 2 weeks to get funded, but then after that, it's just days.
Yeah, they're really quick. And I'll show you the process for that once you actually need to get the funding. So you go to funding request and you just put in all your information right here. And then in order to get transactional funding, you need to have your end buyer. So see where it says investor B Well, actually, no, that's you. Here's the end buyer. So end buyer information. So this is where all of the end buyer information goes. And it's very simple. You just put the information in these fields here and you will get funding. There's no credit pulled. You don't need to have any of your own money. There's nothing ever needed.
You just need a deal.
Yeah, you just need the deal. So let's see here. Paul, you guys are great. Thank you. I appreciate you, buddy. The notice of option is between the owner in default and the LLC. So the notice of option is going to be between, yes, owner of record and then us as the buyer. So if you're buying it as a sole proprietor or if you're buying it in a business entity, it would be with us. Yes. But you could go through a realtor versus a short sale co-service. Have a buddy who keeps marketing that they specialize in short sale, but appears that realtor would be quicker and less people in the kitchen. Absolutely, man. I would highly encourage you to do it with a realtor because when that realtor also gets other business, you're going to be able to get that stuff. These services out here, I would be a little leery. They might be a little sketchy. So I'm not sure if I would do that.
Oh, I'll say this too, Matt. The real estate agent that we work with on short sales, he's not just, okay, he's only our short sale guy. It just happens to be he's really good at short sales, but he also happens to know a ton of investors. So we work with him on all types of properties.
Yep.
But the fact that he does do short sales makes things a lot easier because then, Jason, whenever we get a short sale, it's always an easy, like, hey, Mike, I've got this short sale. Here's the details. And he's just like, all right, send it to me. And then I don't know, it's super easy for my plate right there. You know, conversations get really few and far between with the seller, and he just updates me like, well, this is where I'm at with the seller. I've sent the letter into the bank. They got an FHA loan. I might be able to go ahead and do this. I don't want to quote anything because not specific and you're not supposed to, and he never does. He's just like, hey, here's what I might be able to do. And he breaks it down for me. But also when we get another property, I send that to him, nothing to do with short sales. And he's always like, yeah, send me everything out. So when you get a good agent, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to make things easier for myself. I'm going to grow my business with a good connection.
Yep. And thanks, Fish. You rock too, buddy. You rock as well, my man.
Thanks,
absolutely. And he's
torchies, man. I need some torchies.
Oh yeah, torchies. That was next time we go down there, depending on when this whole charang gets better.
Yeah.
We go. Let's see here. So if you use a notice of option to buy a short sale, how does the realtor come in with their contracts when it won't be an option, will it? So no, the notice of option is just getting filed. It's basically giving you first right to purchase the property with your option. There's the main reason why we file it is also too, if for some reason you can't buy the property, you could always get a fee for having your notice of option removed. So either it be $1,500, $5,000, max we've gotten paid for from the bank to have the notice of option removed was $7,500. So you could do stuff like that too. But all of the documents that have to do with what the realtor needs to do, it's not a conflict for the notice of option. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh yeah, Mike put in tacos.
Well, come on, we're talking about torchies.
Torchies, big time. Let's see. I think so if you use a notice of option house as a realtor, okay, we just answered that one. Okay, cool. Yeah. Do you get the property? Yes, you're going to get the property under contract before you contact the bank. That's what we love doing. But sometimes you might find agents that already have short sales that are listed. But that's the other thing too, is when you're dealing with agents that you're not working with all the time and they already have short sales listed, they most of the time have no idea what they're doing. So it could become somewhat of a challenge to go after already listed short sales. So hopefully that's good to go.
Taco love.
you get the property under contract before you contact? Yeah, you keep posting the same thing over and over and over. I'm not sure.
I don't know if you're just getting stuck or what. Yeah, you do want to, you know, I'm sorry, it just threw me off a little bit when I saw that question the second time. Yeah, obviously you want to get it under contract, or at least we want to.
3 times.
Yeah, just it's making things. You got to understand.
Oh, it's 4 times.
It's about making things simple and easy, you know, and it's not just for us. Like you're talking about the seller too, and like we talk about with our delinquent strategy, and same thing with the short sale strategy. You're just making it easy for them. Okay, when you talk to them about their options, and you're kind of just, hey, I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying here's what you could do. And then they say, well, I'd like to do the short sale. This sounds good. And then you plug in their real estate agent. It's simple. Like I don't have to do much. And then when it comes into contracts, just getting everything black and white in the option contract, everything black and white saying, you know, this is what's going to happen. We're going to buy the property. We're going to buy the property for X amount of dollars. We have the right to walk away from this. We fully explain to you what we're doing with this property. You already know your situation 100%. You know, like as long as it's in black and white and you're not being shady about anything, which Jason, that's why he said about the land contracts. Like you shouldn't need to do something shady to get the deal closed. You should be able to be front and honest and tell people, listen, I'm going to buy your house, or like I tell people, I'm going to bring an investor in to come look at your house, and we're going to see, you know, like we can't buy every house, but we might be able to do something here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have any questions, we're coming down to the end of this live stream. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, just feel free, drop them in. We'll be more than happy to address any of those questions. If you haven't already become a subscriber to the channel, make sure you do that. We're going to be talking about private money on Friday. So definitely become a subscriber. We're going to be talking about some really cool things with a good friend of mine. And we're going to be going over all things private money. So how to raise it, how to use it, best way to just structure private money deals so that you're making some really, really good money. So become a subscriber. Make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you give us a thumbs up on this video. It really, really helps out quite a bit. So let's see here. We're getting some questions coming in.
Are you dropping the contract on the next video on Friday then?
No, I'm going to drop it today.
Oh, okay.
So Tico, I'm sorry. Are you guys both based out of Indy? Yes, we are both here in Indianapolis.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Don't let anybody tell you.
Not sure why he keeps doing this. The Golden State Warriors were awful this year. They were absolutely awful. So
your jersey in the back and thinking about basketball.
Oh, well, I'm not a Cavaliers fan. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a Bulls fan. And last time I looked, we had 6 championships. So yeah, he put Golden State Warriors multiple times. It doesn't bother me. I'm not a Cavaliers fan. Oh, Tico, you're only 2 hours away. Awesome. Let's see here. Was this? There you go. Thank you. Very reasonable. Awesome. Thanks, Rob.
That's what this is all about, guys. I mean, yeah, I think Edwin was the one asking here. You just another one of those gurus. Like, listen, there's tons of gurus out there. Jason and I think that's a small percentage actually. Let me take that back. There's a small percentage, 10%. I live by the 10% rule of people that just kind of talk. And I think someone said, yeah, you're not showing me your cars and making it sound like this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, this is a tough business. It's hard. This is what we do for a living. When we get on these videos and we talk about real life tools and things that we're doing, contracts that we give away, our philosophy is these things are kind of just things you should know and have, and that should be available to pretty much every real estate investor out there, not just because it's good information, it's widely available, but because by doing it the right way. Jason, you can attest to this more than I can because you were more active back in 2008, 2009, but I remember it because I was getting started, all the shady stuff that was going on and how hard that made it for people doing the business right. The way short sales changed and everyone was like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. because of all the people that were getting subpoenaed and whatnot by the attorney general for doing some shady off the wall stuff. But when we share this with you and say, no, don't do the land contract, don't try to cut the bank out, don't do some shady off the wall contract that has stuff written on white ink on white paper that can't be seen unless it's under a black light. Like, no, really make it simple. And then if you want to take it to the next level, after you've taken this very basic information, like, okay, here's how you do a short sale, here's how you do a tax delinquent sale, here's how you do a whatever, a land contract, or what we doing next week, how do I take it to the next level? Then you start looking at, okay, well, I'm gonna zone in on this strategy, and whoever's I can learn the best from, whoever's gonna give me the best information, I'm gonna listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Keith, I love learning all this. Awesome. Judy. Hey, Judy, you guys rock. Thank you so much for that. Tico, I have my first potential sub to the deal. Share a contract. Share a contract. Like what kind of contract are you looking for?
Was it
so one of the things is I'll say this. It was a while ago, but we didn't go didn't they win 73 victories in a season? I think they lost, right? Ooh. I think the Bulls went 72-10 one year. They actually had a better winning percentage than the Golden State Warriors. So yeah. I know my facts. They had a better winning percentage than the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, they had a little run, but also too, one of the things you need to take a look at, Mr. Wrong, is what happened when Jordan left. They didn't fall apart like the Warriors did when Kevin Durant left. They looked like they didn't really look too good this year. Pippen and Grant were still doing some good things there. So we could argue all day long, but that
might be another channel. We're gonna have to start another channel. Which is better? Who's better? Who did it better?
Let's see here. Who else had some things that weren't basketball related? The link. Yeah, we'll have the link in the description. I'll do a I know you're just trolling, Mr. Wrong. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll have a link in the comments section. I'll pin it, and the link will be in there for you guys to download our JV agreement. And also I'll put the link in there too for our short sale stuff. Where's Steph Curry?
I was about to say, we asked him for D-Rose. Where's Curry?
Yeah. I guess he's made out of glass as well.
Yeah, come on, man. D-Rose, he had a long run before he started becoming unbreakable.
Yeah. Youngest ever MVP. So go troll somewhere else. But does anybody else have any questions? Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Awesome. Appreciate you, Fish. Anybody else have any questions before we go ahead and wrap things up? Mike, anything else? Any parting words?
You know what, guys? Jason, I know we have another one coming up on this Friday. One thing I like to do, at least, is try to drop a little gem from the past, blast from the past, and I think we've done enough of that on this one. We've covered a few gems from the past with the getting started with short sales and how all that got going. But in the next video or whatever, if there is something you guys want to know a little more about from how things got started, because I know a lot of this, what goes on in this business is anonymity. Is that the right word? Or mystery? Like, where did he come from? Why did he get started? Like, how did he get here? What is he doing? What makes him so different than me? And what people fail to understand is nothing. There is nothing that makes you different from me. And I think these little stories kind of help. But I mean, on the next video, I'm going to try and come up with another good gem. If I remember, what are we talking? We'll have to figure out what we're talking about on Friday. Private money. Okay. Private money. I'll have to come in with a good tune, a good story for you guys on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. I don't see any other questions coming in. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And we will see you on Friday. Make sure you become a subscriber. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you guys drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. Let's see here. I have an inactive real estate license. Is there an advantage to reactivating? Yes, I would recommend it, but that's ultimately up to you. I would recommend that you reactivate it. You could still so I would still outsource the negotiation, but you're just giving yourself, instead of having an agent go and do all of the talking with the individual, the homeowner, you can actually go because you'll be a licensed individual. So you're not putting yourself at risk as a mortgage foreclosure consultant, but double check that with your attorney. But if I were you, I would get it back in active status.
Yeah,
Great question.
if it's not that much, plus you get your again instant access back to the MLS, awesome data, new connections again. It's a no-brainer.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. No, great stuff. Yeah, great question, Deborah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you guys all have a great, great day. Mike, thanks for joining. And we will see you guys on Friday. Take care. Bye now.